What if the person who broke you held the missing piece to your healing? At 34, Natalie Reed was what Forbes called a modern legend, the youngest female CEO of a Fortune 500 tech company, a symbol of resilience, an icon of ambition. In glass-walled boardrooms, her name commanded respect. In tech magazines, she was celebrated. In her downtown penthouse, though, silence told a different story. Behind the power suits and quarterly growth charts was a woman who hadn't believed in miracles for 6 long years. Not since the day Ethan Carter, her fiancé, her first real love, the father of her unborn child, vanished without a word. One minute he was there, rubbing her belly and promising forever, and the next, gone. No phone call, no goodbye. Just empty air where love used to live. Now, she raised their 5-year-old son, Liam, alone. A curious, sweet boy who had his father's eyes and his mother's stubbornness. She poured every ounce of herself into him and her work. She told herself she was healed. That love was a distraction, and scars were just reminders of survival. But some wounds don't stay buried. They wait for the right moment to breathe again. It was a Thursday, rainy and dull. The kind of morning that wrapped the city in gray fog and pushed people into coffee shops with wet umbrellas and sleepy eyes. From her office, perched high above the noise, Natalie sipped her second espresso and scanned her calendar. Investor. Debrief. Executive check-ins. A working lunch with an AI startup. Just another day at the top of the world. A soft knock came at the glass. Kayla, her assistant, stepped in with a puzzled look. Her brows drawn, lips pursed like she didn't quite know what to make of what she was holding. "This came for you," Kayla said, handing over an envelope. "No return address, no postage. It was just here." Natalie frowned. The paper was yellowing, its edges curled like it had traveled through time instead of the postal system. The handwriting was shaky, but hauntingly familiar. Her heart stuttered. "Thanks," she murmured, trying to keep her hands from trembling as Kayla stepped out. She turned the envelope over. There was no name, no clue, only that unmistakable loop in the letter R.A. Chill ran up her spine. She sat down slowly and slid her finger under the flap. Inside was a single sheet of paper, faded, creased, and smelling faintly of something like cedarwood and rain. "To the woman I loved and left behind, if you're reading this, it means I failed. But I need you to know. I never stopped loving you. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you years ago." Her breath caught in her throat as her eyes dropped to the signature, Ethan. The name hit her like a stone, hurled through stained glass. It couldn't be. For years, Natalie had convinced herself he'd simply walked away. Maybe he'd gotten cold feet. Maybe the pressure of fatherhood scared him. She had tried not to drown in the whys. Therapy hadn't helped. Time hadn't healed. She built walls instead, walls that looked like boardrooms and baby monitors, and yet here it was. His handwriting, his voice. After 6 silent years, he was reaching out. From wherever he'd gone. Her heart raced as she kept reading. "I didn't leave because I wanted to. I thought I was protecting you. I thought silence was mercy. But I was wrong. If you're reading this, it means I couldn't outrun the truth." Meet me where it all began. The answers are there. She stared at that line, the paper trembling in her hands. Where it all began. Only one place came to mind. The Winding Spine, that tiny, crooked bookstore in Maplewood with creaky floors, mismatched, armchairs, and the best chai lattes in the world. It was where she and Ethan had met on a rainy Sunday, where they fell in love between poetry books and spilled coffee, where they'd once made plans to grow old. She stood abruptly. Kayla peeked in, startled. "Everything okay?" Natalie pressed, the letter to her chest, unsure if she was breathing properly. "Cancel everything today," she said. "Reschedule it all." Are you sure? Yes. No other explanation. Just the pounding of her heart and a name echoing in her soul. Ethan. The elevator ride down felt eternal. Her mind raced with questions she never let herself ask. Where had he been? Why now? Why write to her? And how had the letter gotten into her office without anyone seeing? Outside, the rain came harder. She barely noticed. Her driver asked if she needed an umbrella. She shook her head. All she needed was to get to Maplewood, to the place where it all began. Some places aren't just memories. They're waiting rooms for second chances. The drive out of the city blurred past in streaks of gray and green. She gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing anchoring her to the moment. Raindrops slid across the windshield like tears. Maybe that was appropriate, because something inside her had cracked wide open. The letter wasn't just ink on paper, it was a door. A haunting, beautiful, terrifying door, and she had no choice now but to step through it. Some places aren't, just memories. They're waiting rooms for second chances. The sign was still the same, the winding spine. Faded gold letters on a weather-worn wooden board slightly tilted, still dangling by one stubborn chain above the door. The same ivy curled across the brick, wild and untamed. And the little bell above the entrance? It still jingled with that same soft chime, the sound of her past whispering welcome back. Natalie stood in front of the bookstore for a long moment, umbrella forgotten, rain soaking through her trench coat. Her breath puffed in the chill air, and her heart beat louder than the thunder overhead. 6 years. 6 years since she'd last stood here with Ethan's hand in hers, laughing at something ridiculous he'd said about the way poetry smelled like hope. She pushed open the door. The scent hit her instantly. Old paper, wood polish, and cinnamon tea. It was exactly as she remembered. Time hadn't dared touch this place. There were fewer customers than she recalled. Only one, really, an elderly man behind the front desk. Gray hair, suspenders, kind eyes. He looked up the second she entered, as if he'd been waiting. "You must be Natalie." She stopped in her tracks. "I'm sorry." "What?" He smiled gently. "Ethan told me you might come one day." Her stomach flipped. The man stepped out from behind the counter and reached under it, retrieving a small wooden box carefully tied with a red ribbon. "He left this for you." Natalie's fingers twitched as she took it from his hands. "How do you know him?" she asked, voice hoarse. "I didn't. Not really. He came in here about a year ago. Said this place used to be special. Said he had something important to leave behind in case you ever found your way back." Her throat tightened. "Did he say where he was going?" "No, only that he wouldn't be back." He offered a sad, knowing smile. "Some people come to leave ghosts behind. Some come to collect them." Natalie clutched the box tighter. "Thank you." She drifted to the back of the store without thinking, her feet leading her to their table, tucked near a shelf labeled Poetry for the Brave. The same mismatched armchairs waited there, one deep green, one burgundy. She sat in the green one. Ethan had always taken the burgundy. Her hands trembled as she untied the ribbon. Inside the box, a photo. The two of them, years younger, laughing, under a bookstore awning in the rain. Her lipstick smudged, his eyes bright. A USB drive, labeled in small handwriting, "Play me," and another folded letter. She unfolded the letter, heart hammering. "Natalie, I didn't leave because I stopped loving. You? I left because I was dying. A rare genetic heart condition, terminal, no cure. By the time they caught it, I had maybe a few years. I couldn't let you watch me disappear piece by piece. I thought disappearing all at once was kinder. I was wrong. You deserved better. You deserved the truth. But more importantly, Liam deserves a chance. The condition is hereditary. If he has what I had, he needs to be tested. Please, Nat. Don't wait." Her vision blurred. The page swam. Liam. Suddenly, the bookstore felt too small, too quiet. Her breaths came short, uneven. The letter slipped from her fingers onto the table. 1,000 thoughts collided in her mind. Ethan hadn't abandoned her. He'd been trying to save her, and now he was trying to save their son. She drove back home through sheets of rain, numb, to the storm inside and out. The city blurred around her like background noise. Her only focus, Liam. When she walked through the door, the sound of Lego bricks clacking greeted her. "Mommy!" Liam called out from the floor where he was building, a tower that leaned like the Tower of Pisa. "Look! I made a spaceship castle!" She dropped her bag and rushed to him, kneeling and wrapping him in her arms so suddenly that he squawked in surprise. "Mommy?" he asked, his tiny voice muffled against her shoulder. "You okay?" She held him tighter. "I'm just happy to see you, baby." In that moment, she realized something terrifying. For 5 years, she had feared the past, but now she feared the future. That night, after Liam had fallen asleep, curled up with his stuffed tiger, breathing steady and soft, Natalie sat alone in her room. She pulled out the USB and plugged it into her laptop. A single video file. She clicked the woo. Screen flickered to life. Ethan appeared, older, paler, his once dark hair now streaked with silver. But it was him. His eyes, tired but kind. His smile still lopsided. "Hey, Nat," he began, voice cracking. "If you're watching this, it means I'm gone. And I'm sorry. I thought disappearing was mercy. I see now it was cowardice. I should have stayed. I should have let you choose." He paused, visibly struggling with emotion. "But Liam, he's everything. I know you're raising him with that fierce love you used to give me. I know you're doing amazing." His voice lowered. "If he's anything like me, he'll be stubborn, brave. And he might have my condition. Please test him. Early detection means treatment. It could save his life." He looked directly into the lens. "I love you. I always did. I just didn't know how to say goodbye." The video faded to black. Natalie pressed her hand to her mouth, tears spilling freely. All these years, she thought he ran from her. But the truth? He had been running toward her son's safety. Sometimes the ones who leave behind the keys to our salvation. She didn't sleep that night. She stayed by Liam's side, watching him breathe, watching his chest rise and fall like the most fragile miracle in the world. By morning, she made the call. "Hi, I need to schedule a genetic test for my son. There's a condition that runs in his family. I need to know." She hung up, feeling like she had just taken the first real breath in years. Whatever the results were, she would face them, for Liam, for Ethan, for the love that somehow still lived in the echoes. The greatest love stories aren't just about passion, they're about sacrifice. The waiting room smelled like hand sanitizer and quiet dread. Natalie sat stiffly in the hard plastic chair, her fingers curled tightly around Liam's tiny hand. He was swinging his legs, humming to himself, blissfully unaware of the gravity, pressing down on her like a lead weight. Across from her, a cheerful wall mural of woodland animals danced through a painted meadow. It felt cruelly out of place. She looked down at Liam. His eyes were the same deep blue as Ethan's, the same stubborn curve to his jaw, the same spark of mischief even now, when he should have been nervous. He didn't know why they were here. Not really. She'd told him they were just doing a checkup, but her voice must have betrayed something because he had squeezed her hand and whispered, "Don't worry, Mommy. I'll be brave." God, he was brave. Braver than she'd ever been. The tests were done quickly. Blood work, imaging, and EKG. The pediatric cardiologist, Dr. Elaine Park, had a gentle, measured voice that made it all feel manageable, reassuring. But Natalie saw the shadow in her eyes. She was a mother, too. She knew. When Dr. Park finally returned to the room with a folder in her hands, Natalie's heart began to pound. The doctor sat down across from her. Calm, kind. "I'll be direct," she said, opening the folder. "Liam tested positive for the same genetic mutation that causes the condition Ethan had. But we caught it early. And that changes everything." Natalie blinked. "Early means treatment?" Dr. Park nodded. "It means monitoring, medication, lifestyle precautions. It means we can manage this. It means hope." Natalie's vision blurred. She looked down at Liam, who was now trying to stick a superhero sticker onto her shoe. She let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding for 6 years. Hope, Ethan had given her that, even in death, even in absence. That night, after putting Liam to bed, Natalie stood in the doorway of his room, watching him sleep. The soft rise and fall of his chest, now tinged with a layer of fragility she hadn't known before. But there was strength, too. So much of it. She clutched the photo from the box, the one of her and Ethan soaked in rain and laughter, and felt the ache of 1,000 unsaid words. She walked quietly into her bedroom, pulled out her phone, and opened the BO voice recorder. Her thumb hovered for a moment, then pressed record. "Ethan, you were wrong. You didn't fail. You saved us. I thought I hated you for leaving. I thought you abandoned me. But now I understand. You were trying to shield me from watching. You fall apart, and I wish you'd let me choose to stay. I would have, through every hospital visit, every hard day. But even in your silence, you still protected the 2 people you loved most. Liam will live because of you. And I forgive you. I miss you. And I still love you." She stopped the recording. Her tears didn't come with pain this time. They came with release. Healing doesn't always come from the living. Sometimes it comes from the love they left behind. In the weeks that followed, life didn't return to normal. It redefined itself. Natalie restructured her schedule. She delegated more, said no more often. Liam's health became the sun her world now revolved around. And through that shift, something beautiful happened. She smiled more, laughed more. Liam's laughter echoed louder in the halls of their home. Her company, ReedTech, didn't falter. In fact, it flourished. Investors noticed her clarity. Her leadership sharpened, honed by the knowledge that life was fragile and purpose had to matter. And then came the idea, one that bloomed late at night as she stared at the glowing screen, of Ethan's USB drive, rereading his research, the medical articles he'd collected, the advocacy work he had quietly supported. A foundation, not just for Ethan, for every child like Liam, for every parent staring into the unknown, praying for early detection, for treatment, for hope. She launched it with quiet dignity and loud impact, the Ethan Carter Foundation for Pediatric Genetic Heart Research. The first press release quoted her personally. "We lost someone we love because we didn't know soon enough. Now we'll make sure others don't have to." Ethan's photo, one where he was smiling, wind in his hair, arms slung around a pregnant Natalie, graced the front page of more than one tech and health magazine. But the most meaningful moment, Liam, in his little red blazer, tugging on her sleeve during the launch event. "Mommy," he whispered, "can Daddy see us?" She knelt down beside him, her voice soft but sure. "I think he sees everything now, and I think he's really proud of you." Liam smiled. I drew him a picture. He pulled it from his pocket, a stick figure drawing of the 3 of them, holding hands. Ethan had wings. She blinked away tears and kissed his forehead. Children sometimes see what our broken hearts can't. That night, Natalie framed the drawing and placed it beside her desk at Reed Tech headquarters, right next to the photo from the bookstore. It became her ritual. Every morning before her meetings, before the investors, before the world demanded her time, she would look at that drawing and remember why she fought, why she healed, why she still believed in love, even the kind that ends too soon. Love never dies. It just waits for the right moment to find you again. It had been months since the Foundation's launch, but the echoes of Ethan's love still resonated deeply in every part of Natalie's life. The events, the speeches, the endless meetings, it all had a purpose now. A clearer, sharper sense of purpose that even the sharpest challenges at Reed Tech couldn't dull. She had become a different kind of CEO, one who led with heart, not just numbers. Investors recognized the shift. Her team respected it. And for the first time in a long while, Natalie felt at peace with the choices she had made. But there were still days when the past came knocking in the form of a memory. Those days, she allowed herself to sit in the quiet of her office and remember the man she had loved. The man who, despite everything, had given them a future, even from beyond the grave. It was a Tuesday morning when it happened. The rain had stopped, leaving a crispness in the air, the kind that made everything feel a little more alive. Natalie sat at her desk reviewing some foundation proposals when her phone buzzed. "Kayla," she answered, as her assistant's voice crackled over the line. "Nat, there's someone here to see you. He says it's urgent." Natalie frowned. "Who is it?" Kayla's voice grew quiet. I think it's someone from Ethan's side of the family." Her heart stuttered in her chest. "What? Who?" "I'm sorry, I don't know, but they're insisting on seeing you. I've got them waiting in the lobby." Natalie didn't have time to think. She stood up, grabbed her blazer from the back of her chair, and headed toward the elevator. In the lobby, a man stood by the reception desk. He was tall, with salt and pepper hair and an air of quiet authority. As soon as he saw Natalie, his eyes softened, and a wave of recognition passed through him. "Natalie Reed?" he asked, stepping forward with a tentative smile. She nodded. "Who are you?" "I'm Jonathan Carter." His voice was deep, almost familiar in a way that set her on edge. "Ethan's brother." A gasp caught in her throat. She hadn't known Ethan had any family. It made sense that he must have had relatives, but he had never mentioned them. Not in all their years together. "Ethan's brother?" she repeated, her voice shaky. He nodded. "I know this is unexpected, but I've been following the Foundation's work. I've heard what you've been doing for Liam, for Ethan's legacy, and I wanted to meet you, to thank you." Natalie felt a rush of emotion, the mixture of grief, surprise, and, strangely, comfort. She hadn't expected to feel so connected to someone who had once been so close to Ethan. "Thank you," she echoed, her voice soft. Jonathan smiled, his eyes full of something she couldn't quite place. "You don't know how much this means. To our family. We didn't know about Ethan's condition. He kept it from us. I'm sure he had his reasons. But when I saw the article about the Foundation, I couldn't ignore it any longer." Natalie swallowed. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, and his voice dropped to a whisper. "Ethan left something for Liam. Not just the letters. Before he died, he made sure that I had something for him. I didn't know if I would ever be able to give it to you." She blinked, stunned, as Jonathan reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, leather-bound book, weathered and worn, with a red ribbon tied around it. It was Ethan's handwriting on the front, for Liam. Tears pricked at the corners of Natalie's eyes. Jonathan placed it gently in her hands. "It's a journal. He started it after he found out about his condition. He wanted Liam to have it when the time was right." Natalie nodded, feeling as though a piece of a puzzle she hadn't known was missing was finally falling into place. Later that evening, after the office had emptied out and the world outside had settled into its usual hum, Natalie sat in her living room with Liam curled up beside her. The leather-bound journal rested in her lap. Liam turned to her, his small hands clutching his stuffed tiger, his gaze curious. "What is it, Mommy?" Natalie smiled softly, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "It's something your daddy wanted you to have, sweetie." She untied the red ribbon and opened the journal, flipping through pages filled with Ethan's messy but familiar handwriting. It was a collection of thoughts, memories, and dreams, an archive of a man who had once been larger than life, yet reduced by circumstances to words. Words that now offered her son a glimpse into the heart of the man who had been his father. One entry caught her eye. "Liam, I hope you will read this when you're old enough to understand the things I couldn't say out loud. There's a lot didn't get to teach you, but I want you to know that the strength you have inside of you is something that can't be broken, no matter what life throws at you. Your mother will be there to show you the way. She always was my light. And you'll find yours too one day. Just follow your heart. It's more powerful than you know. Love, Daddy." Tears blurred Natalie's vision, but she didn't mind. She closed the journal and held it to her chest. That night, Natalie stood at the window, looking out over the city skyline, feeling something inside her settle, a peace she hadn't known in years. Ethan had left a legacy not just of love, but of strength. A legacy that, against all odds, had kept Liam alive, and in doing so had healed Natalie in ways she hadn't thought possible. Her phone buzzed, a new email from the Foundation team. She opened it quickly, scanning through the updates, the progress, reports, the donations pouring in. She smiled, proud of the work they were doing together. But as she sat back in her chair, she couldn't help but feel that a new chapter was unfolding. Not just for the Foundation, but for her, for Liam, for all of them. Ethan's love had never left her, and now it was time to move forward, together. Some letters change your day, some letters change your heart, and some, they change everything.